We have now moved into like the Tuesday or the Wednesday episode.
Welcome Tuesday, viewers. We go. What we have?
Welcome. Well, not maybe not Tuesday, perhaps Wednesday.
Yes.
I don't know. We will find. You will find out when we release this video. What were we gonna talk about? Oh yes, we could talk about Jörn Stang.
Ooh.
You know that the idea for the fraternity of the traditional values. Yes.
Yes. What were we discussing
And so
recently about it?
I believe that at first we were discussing. I feel like we already covered like two things. One of them was like the nature of government and like democracy versus monarchy, and we were basically just like, it's a bit pointless because people always get the government they deserve, so you should worry less about the method of choosing leaders and more about the morality of the people at large.
Mm.
The other thing I think was we talked about like what would be the Jernstein policy on environmentalism, and basically it's just like, yeah, you need to take care of the ecology for a variety of reasons, some of which do align with the material motivations of like green parties and stuff. But overall, like what we might call like ecological protections should be less scientific and more moral. Just the woods is a bit sacred, so you should be a bit careful about it.
Mm. I think that's a very different framework to what the modern left would have. It's because they have. I think they can picture.
Well, not yeah.
I think one of their sort of things that they picture is, I don't know, fields of solar panels or something, or wind turbines, which to a conservationist, to someone who actually loves the countryside, they look hideous. You know, these disgusting.
Well, it's not just that they look hideous; it's that they're actually counterproductive. You know, like wind turbines are a major harm to migratory birds, like geese and eagles and hawks and things, and solar panels. Most efficient solar panels, the kind that, more modern high-tech solar panels, just cover up all the ground where you could have grass growing to feed cattle, or where you could have a forest to provide the world with oxygen. Yes, they do.
You can power a house just with solar panels on its roof.
No, you can't. You can power a house during the day with solar panels on the roof. The battery does not...
Okay, then you add a little bit more to charge the battery.
No. The batteries don't hold that much power. It's expensive, Jonathan.
If you have enough... I don't think you understand.
You can't power a city by covering a city in solar panels. It's too dense. There's not enough surface area on the roof of a skyscraper to power a skyscraper.
I think just having a couple of solar panels in someone's garden or something to...
I'm not against solar panels. Like, yeah, solar panels are fine, but they belong in suburbs and villages, basically. You know, we shouldn't have big fields of solar panels out in the countryside.
Yeah.
Which is mostly what we have at the moment.
And then wind turbines as well, sort of on the in the countryside or on sort of offshore.
Well, and the thing is, the more... Yeah, that's part of it. Also, there's like, the more old-fashioned, the cheaper, more old-fashioned solar panels as well, where it works using like reflecting mirrors at like a big pot of boiling water. Those can actually like roast birds as they fly by and cause them to fall out of the sky like on fire. So yeah. And those are the cheap ones. So yeah.
And yet these people don't care. Which is one of the things
No, they don't particularly.
Yeah. At least...
And of course...
these modern environmental movements are perfectly happy building these things, and...
Yeah.
Meanwhile, something which I would feel far more angered about was, say, like an ancient woodland is felled in England, but they don't really care about that sort of thing.
No. Well, they don't most of the time. If it was some kind of famous national park, like if it was like Yellowstone National Park in the United States, they would care. But they'd only care because they know about it, you know.
Mhm.
Whereas, you know, like a person like me, like what's it like living where I do in Alabama? There's a lot of woodlands everywhere. But just about all of it is privately owned because that's just the case. East of the Mississippi, virtually all the land is privately owned. And, you know, as a result, most of the woodlands around here are completely unprotected, and, you know, when whatever old person owns it either dies or just gets a bit desperate for money, they sell it to the land developers. You know, and the land developers cut down everything, and they just build a bunch of ugly cookie cutter houses, or else they build an ugly apartment block, depending on how close you are to Birmingham.
Mm. And over here, really, it's not a great deal different. The amount of housing and developments that have been going up have been completely unprecedented.
Yeah. And of course, something else that's quite sad as well is when you see like a farmer's field, you know, when you see that get all, you know, in the hands of the land developers, and it's quite sad as well.
Yeah.
So I don't know. What are some other? I think that we were trying to figure out like the Jernstang opinion on religion just a short time ago. I think that was our most recent thing.
Yeah. And we were sort of trying to talk about and discuss whether we were going to be, you know, how broad we were trying to aim Jernstang to be.
Oh, I just remember. So like one of the classic things we were talking about is like the essence of what is a human.
Mm-hmm.
And basically what you and I figured out was like, well, humans are not rational animals, partially just because they aren't, you know. It's just self-evident that a lot of people aren't rational. And neither is man merely a featherless biped, you know. And neither is, you know, like humans aren't the only animals that do a lot of things. We are kind of the only animal that does like all of them at the same time. Anyway, no, point is, basically the conclusion we came down to is that man is the sacred animal, humans are the sacred animals, and that's what really sets them apart from everything else.
Yeah, I think humans, although as we said irrational, although as we said immoral, they are still they're one of the only species, or the only species capable of remarkable things, which kind of defy their own their own irrationality and immorality.
Well, the thing that I'd say is like it's just self-evidently untrue that humans are unique for being rational. You know, like an ant colony is quite rational.
Yeah.
Even a slime mold is quite rational. You know, like the most when some Japanese scientists laid out some flat rolled oats and sugar in a pattern matching the same pattern as the subway stations in Tokyo. And then they put a slime mold in there, and the slime mold came up with a more efficient transit system than, you know, all the best bureaucrats in Tokyo. You know, so it's rather just self-evidently false that humans are... It's not just that humans aren't universally rational, though there are certainly plenty of rational people in the world. It's also false that animals aren't rational, you know, like dolphins are quite rational, a lot of apes, you know, many apes are quite skilled at using tools in what seems like a fairly rational way. Many of the corvids, you know, ravens, crows, mynah birds, are capable of being rational, it would appear. Elephants, of course, you know, famously highly intelligent and somewhat rational. You know, so it just... Yeah, so, you know, like, that's just not the right thing, so...
But at the same time, we need to remember that humans are unique on this earth. I think you only need to see why, and see that just by taking a walk and seeing how, you know, or just speaking to a human and seeing how obviously different they are from any other animal. Just the
Oh,
fact
yeah.
that we're living in, the fact that we're speaking to each other right now is, I would say, evidence of that.
Yeah, well, what's that? That's why the thing that I was saying is like, there's no one particular thing that makes humans different from all the other animals. It's a collection of like, we're the only animal that does this, 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 and this. You know, there's like 10 different
Yeah.
things, and individually they're all done by other animals, but humans are the only ones that do them together. And you know, basically just the thing that I would say. But I think that like even that is all like you're still getting into kind of superficial stuff when you try to say that a human is this or a human is that. When you try to say anything about humans other than they are the sacred animal, I feel like you're basically getting too far away from things. But also it's just because I feel like saying that humans are like, you know, man is the sacred animal is also good because I feel like that's a happy medium between we might call the classical view of humanity, at least in the West, of, you know, humans being fundamentally different from all the other animals, versus the sort of modern scientific view, which has sort of revealed the fact that humans are remarkably similar to the majority of animals on Earth.
Yeah. I think some of the mistakes of modern scientism would be just to boil things down in humans to scientific processes.
Like, it might seem a bit arbitrary. It might seem a bit arbitrary to just say that humans are sacred just because. But I feel like it's true.
You still there?
Yes, I'm still here. Did I cut out?
You cut out for a few seconds, yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, what I was asking what you were gonna say, because I thought that I'd interrupted you.
I don't think I was going to say anything. Well, I guess the only thing I'll mention is that, yeah, as we were saying, that humans are unique, but also they're not separate from animals. There are things shared that they have in common.
Yeah, and like, what's it like? I feel like you can't get too wrapped up in people being animals because I feel like you lose some of the fundamental respect that you need to have for your fellow man when you do that.
Mm.
But I also feel like we should never be like. There's a certain kind of arrogance when, you know, like we shouldn't be like holier than thou with regard to the animals because. There is something that is just with that about that is just going in the wrong direction, you know.
Mm. Well, we should also bear in mind that humans have been capable and have done tremendous evil, which no animal could even kind of dream of doing.
Oh yeah. What's
But
it like?
we've
Humans
also-
being the only animals capable of great and sort of unconditional kindness are the only animals as well that are capable of great and unconditional cruelty.
Yeah.
You know, what's it like? One animal kills another because it is hungry. Particularly cruel animal, like a cat, might kill another animal just because he is bored. Humans are unique, though, because we don't just kill other creatures. You know, it's not even universal among people. But, you know, like, the behavior of taking another living creature and torturing it as exquisitely as possible,
Yeah.
knowing full well what it is experiencing, you know, like the heart full of empathy and enjoying the act because you know exactly what kind of pain it is in is something that is, I would say, basically unique to humans, you know.
Yeah.
The greatest monsters in history never have been sociopaths because a sociopath, one who is lacking in empathy, no, it's like they will ignore people and they will hurt people sort of through belligerence and sort of just as like the harm which comes to people. A sociopath is sort of impersonal and animalistic. Whereas the harm which may be wrought by an empathetic but wicked person is unparalleled.
Yeah. I've been reading I've been watching Apostolic Majesty did a stream about the scouring of the Shire fairly recently, and it was quite interesting because it touched on a kind of Tolkien's own experience of returning to to his old sort of town after World War Two. I think it was called Sarehole or something. It was this small hamlet near, relatively close to Birmingham, and he found when he was
Birmingham.
Yeah.
No, I just ever since I moved to Birmingham, Alabama, I love to
So he found when he returned to it after shortly after World War Two, that his kind of old mill that he used to go to had been run down and abandoned, and like the old woodland he spent as a child had been destroyed. It just became basically a suburb of Birmingham, and they kind of brought home the fact that, you know, I'm sure we both would agree, the Nazis and Mr. Adolf, they were evil, but they weren't the soul of evil, and evil remained afterwards, you know. And this wasn't.
Yes.
It wasn't
I would say.
It wasn't.
I would say that the mid-century Germans were one of innumerable symptoms of the industrial age and the horror of the industrial age.
Mm. An ideology spawned from that sort of period, just like communism and Marxism.
Yes, well, you know, what's it? Because, like, the sort of industrialized, mechanized, mass-produced slaughter, you know.
Mm.
You know, the horrors of mass and scale, you know, reckoned in that time period were only possible because of, after Genghis Khan. You know, like, the only murderers which have ever compared to him, you know, like, it was not until the industrial age that we were able to do anything remotely like that.
Mm.
You know, and he killed so many people that the absence of wood smoke is noticeable in the in the ice sheets in Antarctica. You know, because scientists do that thing, you know, to gauge the amount of pollution. Like you can gather like the gross pollution from around the world by drilling into the ice sheets in Antarctica.
Mm.
And you know, when scientists drill down to about the 1300s or whenever it was that Genghis Khan was alive, they find during the years of his rampage there's a massive drop in the amount of wood smoke related pollutants in the air, because he killed so many people that the amount of like campfires and things declined so drastically.
Yeah,
it was noticeable on the global scale.
And I think it's a very simplified vision of what is good and what is evil, just to simply believe that killing.
Oh yes, no, but I was just gonna say the industrial age, you know, the 20th century, the horrors of the 20th century are the only thing, you know, like Russia, China, Nazi Germany. It was not until, you know, the socialist politics of the 20th century that we were able to have, you know, mass murder surpass the works of Genghis Khan.
It was the Industrial Revolution that provided the means with which they could do it. And I think in the French Revolution provided the ideas.
Oh, yeah. And I would say is that's just the typical way of it, isn't it? You know, I would say is there's a sort of classic trope, I would say, that, if the American Revolution was something good, which, contrary to some internet reactionaries, I remain steadfast in my patriotism, I would say that the French Revolution was the satanic bastardization of it.
Yeah. Because it kind of took those things and twisted them into their own versions, which were kind of a total... they had nothing to do with what the original founding fathers intended.
Yeah, you know, like America, like there was never any effort or desire to kill the king in the United States, you know. Partially that's just because he wasn't about, but I rather feel that even if he was, I feel like we still wouldn't have. We just would have been like, nah, you're just a private citizen now. You can call yourself king. We're not going to strip you of your wealth. You're just not allowed to tell us what to do anymore.
Yeah.
Just because that's the American way of doing things. You know, we're not a. We can be, I suppose, because any human being can be vengeful, but we're not a particularly vengeful or vindictive set of people. You know, we're a. We just don't want to be told what to do, and as long as a person isn't telling us what to do, we're not really going to pay attention to them.
Yeah.
At least that's yeah. At least that's my way of thinking. I don't know. My brother is rather different. You know, like my brother is always like my brother is always wishing for the death of people that he dislikes, and it's just like, you know, like he'll wish for like the death of, like, you know, like Tucker Carlson or something, and I'll just be like, you know, and it's like, I despise Hillary Clinton, you know, like I hate so many people in the world, but I don't particularly want them to die. I don't even want them to suffer. I just want them to be removed from their positions of power so that they can no longer make life miserable for the rest of us, you know.
I don't think
Hey.
it's a good way of thinking about life in terms of just who you wish to, who you want to live and who you want to die. Not that you could ever have the power, right? It is like, not that you have the power to do that, but you know, it's not up to you to be the arbiter. I can't remember what that Gandalf quote was, but something to do with choosing who lives and who dies.
Yeah. Oh, something about that. Something very wise, I'm sure.